But he also loved creatives. He loved musicians. He loved other actors and other people in the sector. So he wanted to open a Mbongeni Ngema museum of African greatness. And the whole idea behind this museum was to tell the history of himself as an artist, as a creative. Those who knew him personally will know that uMadlokovo was a very passionate historian. He knew his history. He knew African history, Zulu history, of course, South African history. And he was extremely passionate about sharing that history. So he wanted to open this museum called the Mbongeni Ngema Museum. We worked on the document, we worked on the proposals, we wrote letters. I remember we met with eThekwini Parks and Recreation, and in 2024, we were going to have a 6-month exhibition of his museum. And in that museum, he was also going to celebrate other artists and other creatives who were his contemporaries. He mentioned names like Miriam Makeba, he mentioned Brenda Fassie, he mentioned some who are still alive, Abo Yvonne Chaka Chaka. He mentioned African creatives like Youssou N'Dour, Salif Keita. These are people that he wanted to share their stories in his museum. He also spoke about sporting personalities. You might not, but uMadlokovo was very good friends with some of the soccer players that have kind of shaped South African football. And he spoke about Ace Ntwelengu, he spoke about Teenage Ladla and many others. So as I sit down, I just want to say to the Ngema family that we are as committed as ever to continue with his legacy and with his projects, and everything that he planned and discussed, we are committed to continue with it. And kuMadlokovo ngithi siyabonga. Thank you for trusting us and for bringing us into your life and allowing us the incredible opportunity and privilege to work with you. Thank you.
Yo, that is good. Thank you very much. Let's clap hands for the performers as well, please. Before I invite the next speaker, Baba Chico Twala will speak on behalf of creative art industry. I want to acknowledge Umama Yvonne Chaka Chaka, who's also part of us here. La ehleli khona, si acknowledge Stix Mabus, siyafisa ukuthi naye sim acknowledge because asuka kude. Makuthiwa umzawala usuka kude kusuke kusho into eshiwa kanje basayibambile futhi. Mama basayibambile. Sibambe nabo. Ubaba uChico Twala ozokhuluma as already indicated, bese kuba yileli feedback mambazo namanye ama-artist akhona. Ezofisa ukuthi we invite to Mr. Chico Twala eze ngaphambili ezokhuluma on behalf of creative art industry. Simshayele izandla beza ngaphambili. Ngicela ukuthi uDJ uselector ngekhathi sibiza abantu abezidlalela ingoma zababa uNgema kuzoba mnandi because we're here to celebrate the life of Baba uNgema. Thank you.
Sanibonani. Namhlanje ngiyazi ukuthi kunama ministers la, kunama premier mayors, but today I'm not going to call any of you with your respective titles. I want to refer to you as brothers and sisters in honor of Mbongeni Ngema, simply because during the days of apartheid, we were real brothers and sisters, not the enemies that we are today. Today, I want us to be ordinary citizens in honor of Mbongeni and reboot our conscience. Swele mva, reboot. And take it back to the days of apartheid, where we used to love one another as black people. Bestandana. What we are seeing today is disgraceful. To honor this man today, bengicela ukuthi asibambaneni sibe munye. Mina, I worked with Mbongeni on 2 projects. The peace song, when there was political violence in South Africa. Mbongeni, myself, and Dumandlovu gathered and said, we need to stop this through a song. Mbongeni was is one of the person who was very passionate about black people, black lives. What was happening in KZN between the ANC, in fact, not KZN, all over South Africa, between the ANC and Inkatha Freedom Party was really disturbing to Mbongeni. Hence, we actually gathered together and put together a project called the Peace Song, which did very well. All the proceeds were actually given to the proceeds went to the victims of violence at that time. Today, Mbongeni and I were once assigned by the then Minister of Transport, Jeff Radebe, to compose songs for the ANC election campaign. And while we're busy creating the songs, he said a lot of unpalatable things that were happening in our country. I don't want to dwell too much on what he said, but corruption was really hurting Mbongeni. To honor him, asiluseni corruption sibambaneni bafowethu. I have to be very short, but I would like to say this in closing. When I started my musical career in the early 80s, the likes of Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba, Letambule, Jonas Gwangwa were exiled because of singing apartheid songs. Protest songs were a criminal offense in this country, we all know that. But one person, in fact, not one, 2. Mbongeni, Ngema, and Zwakhe Mbuli. They said, "Amabhunu, wabakhomba what? Mbongeni." He kept the fire burning. He sang protest songs throughout. He said, "I'm not going to exile." So Nluisa Konala, and he did exactly that. He is the one who inspired the likes of Brenda Fassie, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, myself, to start singing protest songs. Without Mbongeni, definitely we wouldn't have created songs like Good Black Woman for Brenda Fassie, Too Late for Mama, I'm Missing Winnie Mandela by Yvonne Chaka Chaka. All the protest songs that we created was because of Mbongeni Ngema's bravery. I remember Mama Winnie Mandela came into my house at Chico. Ufika la YWCA. He was doing what he likes with Amapun, and there's nothing that he did. He encouraged. That's why most of us, he really inspired us. This is the man who made some of us what we are today. In conclusion, ministers, mayors, nonke, and according to honorable today, my brothers and sisters, you playhouse. Let's name it after our brother here. He deserves it. Thank you very much.
Siyabonga. Thank you. Thank you. Siyabonga Baba Twala. You spoke very well. You spoke like a leader. You understand that we are here. Ngifisa to acknowledge ubaba uHashel Mhlophe okhona ngaphakathi. Bese I then acknowledge ubaba umzwakhe Mboli. I have taken note of what we have said, Mr. Twala, that these comrades, they said they were going to fight Ekaya, nearby exile. We are fighting inside, are not going anywhere. I would then, having given powers as a program director, I know that you might have a program. A person that I'm going to invite is not part of the program. I want all of us to rise and invite the former Prim of KwaZulu-Natal, Ubaba Undebele, ezokhuluma Baba Undebele.
All of us do by our presence here and by our celebrations in other parts of our country and the world confer glory and hope to newborn liberty.
Thank you, program directors. Thank you to the Mbongeni family, Mbongeni Ngema family, who has given South Africa, who have given us so much. We thank you for having made it possible for him to do that. Colleagues, Sokubingelelwe, fellow ministers, Premier, and your government, thank you very much. As you see, I'm not in the program. It's called hijack. Let me just make a few remarks. In my earlier life, I was a librarian. And according to South African law, every item ever published is required by law to deposit at the State Library in Pretoria and at the National Library in Cape Town. Every item ever published in South Africa. If that library, State Library in Pretoria, were to be burnt down, it will set back the knowledge of the people of South Africa about themselves very far, very far. We will know less and less about ourselves. Whereas now, we are ukuthi sifuna leya ncwadi, leya letter, na leya signature, okuthiwa yasayinwa uNkosi uDingana noPiet Retief, sifuna ukuyibona ngoba mayikhona kofanele ibe khona State Library. Mayingekho lapha State Library, which it doesn't exist. Mawuthi ke ishile le library, usho ukuthi silahlekelwe ukuthina. The loss will be immeasurable if someone were to ask you in sympathy, konje wakhala kangaka ngale library, yiphi incwadi ubuyifuna lapha? It's not a book, it's not a song, it's not a lyric, it's the whole library obuyifuna, and which makes you to be whole, to be alive. Ikwenza ufile ubuwena, as Champion Jack Dupree will put it. It's that thing that ekuthatha lapha ikubeke lapha. That feeling, it gives you that feeling that you had before you have the feeling that you are having now. It was a feeling of completeness. of confidence to face whatever the future held for us. We had this confidence because with us we had Mbongeni Ngema. The shock that we received on the 27th, of all places, Mbongeni Ngema adlulele emgwaqeni, kube yinto a double pain. Ube nale ability. Politicians argue their case, argue their matter. Artists don't argue, they state their matter. So, Pixley Gaseme will say the demon of tribalism and this and that must be buried and so forth. Babu Shabalala beNombongeni Ngema bezuthi singama venda Zulu Xhosa singama venda yabo, just like that, and you just, it gets in naturally. Akuyona argument and thesis into ibona uyaqinisile vele siyabantu nje abamnyama sonke. Whereas if I was putting it politically, I would just go in the history of evolution and all that. Kanti lapha ibekwa nje. He makes you le fact akubeka yona, it becomes like not in the ehlokoswa ngaphandle to you, but it becomes like a remembered experience. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, man. No, yeah. You see, it's just part of you. It's not like something external to you. I'm an artist. Mawukhuluma nge-French Revolution. Sasifunda incwadi eziningi lapha kodwa uyikhumbula incwadi oyikhumbulayo ekhuluma kahle nge-French Revolution uCharles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. Yeah, nangoku umuntu oyibekayo lento kwakunjani lapho kwakunjani. Zonke lezi zinye usungayiboka ke kodwa i-point of reference ku uCharles Dickens. Kanjalo isehlakalo esifana njengo-1976. How can it happen in 1976? What do people of South Africa say about it? Because masuyibuka internationally yonke lento kwakuyi i-turning point. Until Mbongeni Ngema comes with Sarafina, uthi, yeah, that's it. That I think psychology, I think this and that, we are born ukuthi nali ibhunu ngapha nansi ingane ngapha ayikho indaba yo kwakusa debate on isikhathi leso sarecruita abantu bawungena ku-MK kubeka debate lapho ngoyo uthi hayi but South Africa is not good for guerrilla warfare, there's not enough shrubbery, kufanele kube nama-shrubs ukuze kube ne-guerrilla warfare. Oh lezangane zathi akho shrub esiyidingayo la akho lonto sithananti itshe thathe kodwa jikijela ngamatshe uyisuse le ndaba. So this is what Mbongeni then captured through Sarafina. And then uqhubekile lapho, I remember as someone was saying he was a very keen historian. We used to discuss naye nabanye abaningi ebediscussa nabo, particularly about Zulu history, which was a contested terrain. And it happened ukuthi umkhulu wakhe was part wawa naye eSandra. And we'll discuss this and ukuthi how do you have this history not around kube ngathi we are now extolling ukuthi back to the tribe, back to this, but it was umthelela ofana nowawuliwa oSkhukhune, owawuliwa Eastern Cape, owawuliwa everywhere. It was part of this tributary. And in no time, Mbongeni had come up with a very beautiful concept of a play in the Zulu. Wayibonke mayibeka elento iyahlangana, but where is the money? Then what no, asek Matiba. Then we made an appointment with Matiba. Matiba gave us an appointment on a Sunday afternoon. Saya lapana. Wafika wayibeka, he was a wonderful storyteller. Wayibeka Matiba, wayibeka Matiba. Right, go ahead. And indeed, yatholakala funding of the Zulu. And that's how Mbongeni was. And sithi namhlanje the role of the artist is epitomized lapha kuMbongeni. When the issues were raised on Wednesday, I was very happy when Premier Nomsa Dube Ncube responded to Gutsi. She is dealing, her government is dealing with the matter of the artists, like other governments, other provincial governments elsewhere. But as a challenge, my artists, there are certain things that you must do, discuss. She was not saying no, but she was saying, let's discuss this matter. Not it should happen or not happen, but how do you do these things? So that this positive approach is very important to build on. We are no longer being asked to call upon, but we say, namhlanje, we can do this thing. Mbongeni loved peace. It bothered him ukuthi a province like it has bothered Minister Ucele ukuthi ikhona violence, ikhona udlame, ikhona crime, ikhona violent crime also. But Minister Ucele bese balulula ukuthi awu kodwa abantu be5 benzele crime uzothola u3 wakhona waKwaZulu Natal. Hayibo. Mabe ngaka na uKwaZulu Natal kwenziwa yini khona into ethile okufanele siyilungise lapho. That was a very brave statement, a truthful statement, but truth is not enough. Courage as well to be able to state it. And that Mbongeni is something that worried him quite a lot. That's why Kuluma Lapa Koniskati ama artists not with this Koniskati all the time. Ama artists are struggling with survival in order to be able to practice their craft. So that struggle all the time in idinga ukuthi kusetshenziswane nohulumeni ngendlela eyiyo. But on this question yodlame sengivala sengigcina ne violence ne crime kukhona part esasishare noMbongeni mina ke ngiqhamuka esontweni yena uqhamuka elsewhere but sasikwazi ukuyihlanganisa lezi zinto. Ikhona incwadi yase Galatia 5 verse 15 cabanga ngisho njalo baba uDube ithi uma idlana nilumana qaphelani ukuthi nikaqedane. Ileyo message ubaba Mbongeni Ngema asishiya namhlanje. Qaphelani ukuthi ningaqedane.
Yeah. Amazokugcina ayasidla. Thank you very much, Mr. Ndebele. We want to invite Umama Nomagugu Smelane ozokhuluma on behalf of the African National Congress as requested by the family because Babu Ngema ohambe ANC.
Emzabalazweni emzabalazweni uMbongeni wayekhona emzabalazweni emzabalazweni, 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 emzabalazweni. Mbongeni seyamazini, emzabalazweni. Sithi uNdlovu siyamazini, emzabalazweni, 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 emzabalazweni. Amandla, amandla. Long live the spirit of Comrade Ngema, long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Mbongeni, long live. Thank you very much, program directors. I do wish to stand on the protocol that has been established in greeting all the leadership of the African National Congress that is with us, all the NEC members, Akona, leaders of government, but most importantly, umndeni wakwaNgema nomndeni wakwaGumede, siyabingelela. Siyabingelela, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, artists akhona bonke, sibingelele kubo bonke abanathi namhlanje, sibingelele nakuma comrades. Comrades and friends, today we are gathered with heavy hearts to bid farewell to a truly great South African and a giant of our nation. The beloved, one-of-a-kind genius that was Comrade Mbongeni Ngema. In this moment of profound loss, we are here to extend our deepest condolences and to offer our love and support to the Ngema family, together with uNkosikazi nomndeni wonke. To all his friends, his colleagues, his comrades, and to everyone else whose life was touched by uMadlokovu's life and extraordinary presence. The truth is that it is impossible to talk about the history of our struggle in South Africa ungakhulumi ngoDlokovu. Uma ngabe uzokhuluma ngoJune 16, it will be impossible ukukhuluma ngawo ungakhulumi ngoNtusi yenkomo. In this day and age, descriptive words such as heavyweight, thespian, or legend get thrown around very easily, so much so that they end up losing their essence and meaning. This is because sometimes they are used to describe people who don't fully deserve them. However, in the case of Comrade Mbongeni Ngema, we are talking about a larger-than-life character who was all of those descriptions and much more. A man whose name preceded him, a recognized face with a beautiful mind, a man who was the embodiment of the stage and all the incredible power of artistic expression in our country. He was not merely a playwright, but a cultural icon, as Ubabu Ndebele indicated, a courageous and visionary storyteller whose narratives captured and resonated deeply with the work of the African National Congress and the kind of nation it was fighting for. His creative ability was unmatched. Akekho esambonile ofikayo kuleyo level noma sibabona besondela, and we are very glad that abaningi babo were indeed supported by uMadlokovu. His storytelling became a major catalyst for change. At a time when it was neither popular nor safe to do so, Mbongeni Ngema aligned his creative endeavors with the African National Congress's goals. He used his platform to amplify the ANC's quest for justice, equality, and freedom. His work not only reflected the ANC's values, but also evoked and inspired a sense of activism among the audience, encouraging countless individuals to join the struggle for liberation. Iqiniso ukuthi i-generation yethu, i-generation just up before us, was greatly inspired by the work kaBaba Ngema, or by the work kaComrade Mbongeni Ngema. In an era where the truth was often silenced, Mbongeni Ngema's plays such as Woza Albert, Sarafina, Asina Mali transcended the realm of entertainment. Through these plays, uMadlokovu fearlessly confronted the oppressive regime and exposing its brutality, and challenging the status quo. He helped bring to light the harsh realities of apartheid, igniting difficult and dangerous conversations at a time when doing so could be punished by incarceration or death. If Gibson Kente was the Martin Luther King of our liberation, then uMadlokovu was certainly Malcolm X of our times. Both Gibson Kente and Mbongeni Ngema used their God-given talents to fight racial oppression using the medium of theater, television, film, and music. They used these mediums to agitate for change and to make it clear to South Africans that they should never accept being treated as second-hand or second-class citizens in the land of their forefathers. His work captivated audiences worldwide and disproved many bad stereotypes that the world believed, not only about South Africans, but about Africa as a whole. While simultaneously flying very high the South African flag. He was a torchbearer for many South African artists of any kind who wanted to spread their wings. uMadlokovu, together with people like Umshengu of the Ladysmith Black Mambazo, had to break down many doors for that to be possible. They had to learn how to crawl and then walk so that other entertainers, Basa South Africa, can then run and subsequently fly as some of South Africa's proudest global cultural exports. Mbongeni Ngema's bravery knew no bounds. In the early 80s, when he and Percy Mtwa had written and began performing a play in the Transkei, the authorities heard that the story was anti-establishment and became very angry. Both Ngema and Mtwa were promptly arrested and kept in detention for months. Upon their release, he then went to Johannesburg. uMadlokovu confronted not just the apartheid government, but also its collaborators, the Inkatha Freedom Party. Reflecting on Mbongeni Ngema's life, one of South Africa's foremost authors, Fred Khumalo, writes, and I quote, "In 1986, Ngema wrote a play that almost cost him his life, Asinamali. And Asinamali was inspired by the life of social activist Umsizi Dube, who led the people of Lamontville Township in their refusal to pay rent and raids for the City Council of Durban. For leading this anti-rent strike, Dube was killed. When Asinamali was performed in Mpumalanga Township, just west of Durban, Inkatha people who had heard that the play vilified their leader came to the Glacier Hall to stop the performance. Outside the hall, they killed a man they mistook for Ngema. But that man's name was Uchef Shongwe, one of Ngema's associates. This is the price that many in the province, in the country, paid for defying apartheid collaborators together with the apartheid administrators, and for being on the side of our glorious liberation movement. And that we will never forget. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of history some people want us to hide today. There are countless others who were murdered just because there were countless others who were murdered just because they supported the African National Congress. After Shongwe's murder, uMadlokovu fled to Joburg, where he soon started working on the script of Sarafina. It is now a matter of history books that Sarafina went on to become an immediate hit with the Americans, singasakhulumi South Africa, launching the careers of many performers who are today major stars in the field of entertainment. Sibabonile ke abaningi babo bekhona la phambili ngesikhathi they also appreciate ukuthi talent labo la unearthwa kuphi. There was also a huge demand for Sarafina all over the world, so much so that the couple created a second Sarafina company that would be based in Europe. And I think we heard that earlier on. As we all know, the story of Sarafina became so powerful that Hollywood wanted a movie made out of it. Working with emerging film maker Anand Singh at the time to make Sarafina, Mbongeni helped launch the careers of many performers. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 years ago, ngangithunywe kumsebenzi kahulumeni ngo-June 16, and I engaged a group of young people, and I wanted them to understand, or I wanted to know if they understood what we were commemorating on that day. And as I was asking them, bayazi yini ukuthi kwakwenzekeni ngo-June 16 yini esihlangene nayo? A young 12-year-old raised her hand very excitedly, and you know, she was saying, me, komba mina, and I did. Ngiyambuza ukuthi uJune 16 kwakwenzekeni. Uthi kumina, with all the confidence in the world, June 16 yi birthday ka Sarafina. Now, of course, you would understand that I did not leave it there. I had to clarify it. But the point that was being made by this young lady is that they are able to learn history through the work of Mbongeni. And that will live with us for the rest of our lives and for generations to come. That is the kind of work that Ngema did. Ladies and gentlemen, we can never fault Americans about the history of the civil rights movement. They make sure ukuthi celebrate, commemorate all the time. The Jews never tire of teaching their children about the Holocaust. But somehow, in South Africa, we are expected suddenly to forget about the liberation struggle and what we went through as a black people. That is something we must never agree to. That is something we must never accept. It is very easy for those who benefited during the time of struggle to say, "Sekudlulile khohlwane," because bona they benefited. But Tina, as a people, it is something that we must always remember so that we don't go back to that. Those of us who are left behind owe it to Madlogovu to ensure that his theatrical work, such as Asina Mali, Woza, Albert, and Sarafina, is preserved and gets absorbed into our school curriculum. I hope we will be able to do so, because that is how you get your history to be known by generations to come. In as much as the ANC will continue to strive to deliver a better South Africa for all, we owe our children the truth about what happened in Sharpeville on the 21st of March, 1960. We owe them the truth about what happened during the Soweto uprisings on the 16th of June in 1976. They must grow up knowing what the state of emergency was about in the mid-1980s. They must have an appreciation for the sheer horror of the Boipatong massacre, where 45 people were killed in 1992, and the racial killing of 36 people during the Phoenix massacre in July 2021. This is the only way to ensure our young people get to know and appreciate our painful history, a history that is written in the blood of many people who lost their lives while fighting for us to be free. It is the only way that our children can grow up knowing who they are and where our country comes from. Indeed, by teaching them about our history using the work of people like Madlogovu, that is the only way that our beloved country can avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. Looking back, I feel immensely honored that I was one of the last people probably who enjoyed this performance. There was a beautiful performance that Madlogovu had or gave in August. And as he was performing, I actually just wanted to ask him, what informed it? But if you listen to the lyrics, we are serious. Fortunately, I had hoped I will be able to do so. As we bid farewell to Madlogovu, let us honor his memory and legacy by taking up the mantle that he has so courageously carried. Let us continue to be agents of change, to be champions of justice and guardians of freedom, just as he was. Indeed, as the African National Congress in KwaZulu-Natal, we support the call to rename Playhouse to be Mbongeni Ngema House. Finally, on behalf of the ANC and the people of South Africa, I wish to extend our heartfelt and innermost gratitude to Madlogovu for his lifelong dedication and immense contribution to our liberation and prosperity as a country, but to the work that he did in developing those that, or generations that followed him in the arts, but generations that followed him in politics. As I indicated, majority of us were indeed informed or influenced by his work. Sitindlela nhle Madlokovu, Stenjwa, Tusienkom, Muji, wena wasengweni, Madlokovu ongengakani kodwa nasentendeni yesandla uyanela. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Ematuba mami kweli basi
Ngashoni le bakuluma bathi sonke intombi siyakwazi angakwazi
Emaqamene ekhaya lenenhlwa
ngashoni le bakuluma bathi ufoka ngadi wavela kuqhamuka kwazi.
Siyabonga ama-committed artist amakhe Siyabonga kakhulu ma committed artist amahle. Siyabonga. Ibambe kipizani, ibambe siswami. Ibambe siswami sizoyigala naleyo ngoma kulungile. Siyabonga kakhulu ma committed amahle. Sizocela ukuthi siqhubeke siloko acknowledge abakwi industry nje bakushiwo ukuthi ube nabantu azwana nabo kwi sports ukhona Maria la ukhona ubabule Chaba siyazi ukuthi ababuka Magic at 4 AM bazokukhumbula lapho ekhuluma khona ngalamaqhawe amanye awo njengoba sengizobiza uminister wakwa Sports Arts and Culture ngiyafuna ukuthi ngithi uNgema nohulumeni wase South Africa kuningi okwenzekile where uNgema was supported by ugovernment wase South Africa. Kodwa futhi ngiyafuna ukusho ukuthi kukhona ikhathi la uNgema khokhe khona iprize ngezinto engenziwanga uyena. Ngomunye unyaka sahlala nomama uNkosazana Dlamini Zuma ngani musakhumbula iNongema sobathathu reflecting on into eSarafina 2 and how both of them umama uNkosazana noNgema felt ukuthi they need to tell their side of the story because it was never told. Kodwa ngingakusho ukuthi because of Sarafina 2 uNgema suffered hayi kancane. He lost almost everything. If it was not for the intervention kaBaba uSibundebele, if it was not for that intervention, it was difficult. Kwakunzima. We spent numerous nights kwaBaba Ndebele wesivile ekhaya naseplazini conceptualizing things, and we got support. Ungema kungasekho umuntu osondele eduze kwakhe. Kodwa uBaba Ndebele stood with us and we felt support ka government once again ngaleso sikhathi. Ubaba uMeya ukhuluma la khona ingoma akhulume ngayo akayisho ukuthi yini igama layo. But I want to say again, after Ngema release ingoma eMandiya, he paid a personal price. It was very painful. Kwafuneka kuqoqwa abantu abagcina kuthiwa ingoba makhosi onke kaMtaka noMtshali ababelekelela ukuzo support uNgema at the time. Because kwakunzima, not kancane. Kodwa he kept on knocking on iminyango kagovernment because he knew this is our government. And each time we would receive support. I remember when we went to Kabazela, uBaba uZweli Mkhize saka economic development, sifuna ukwakha iKZN Music House. It was still a concept. And we presented it to him. This is the state-of-the-art studios that Ngema wants to build a KZN. It's standing. It was built by Mbongeni KZN Music House. It's standing here in KZN. Because uKabazela supported us. No Mamwezi Wethusi, I saw her here. Yeah, I saw Mamwezi Wethusi, no Dr. Stella Khumalo Eshodila with province. We received support from our government. Of course, Ndebele was still there. So, ngifuna ukuthi i-industry iyayidinga i-support ka-government, minister, angikambushi, ungangishaya. I-industry iyayidinga i-support ka-government. Siyakubonga namanje from uNgema kwenzeke le ngozi e-Eastern Cape wonke ugovernment wakhona mayor province i-support esiyitholile siyolanda umzimba Eastern Cape we've sathola i-support emangalisayo ku-government, and from that day government has been with us until today. Yonke lento eyenzakalayo u-government. I'm not making a speech, Minister. I'm calling you to come forward. Uyizwile call yokuthi sicela i-playhouse ishintshe igama. Eyakho ke Minister Playhouse. Siyabonga.
Asibonge kubaphathi bohlelo uBhutmandla nomfowethu uHlomuka. Ukuba bekusiya ngami nje mina nginguzizwa kwakodwa bengizothi nje asidedele all the theatre productions zikamfowethu Ngema. Ibe izona ezidlalayo simkhulule emva kokho siyeke nje ama speeches siwakhulume ngesinye isikhathi. Kodwa ke uhlelo lwenziwe ngumndeni bakithi. Sizothi nje amabili amathathu sithi dudu kumndeni ahambe umfowethu. Abaphathi bohlelo, the Honorable Premier umama uNomusa, the former ministers ubaba uThamsanqa Jeffrey Radebe odlale indima enkulu in the life yeleqhawe, the other ministers present, umama uNkosazana, who played a very important role in the life of Eleqhawe as a Minister of Health then. Ubaba, Minister of Police, ubheko kwakhe Hamilton Cele, okhona naye phakathi kwethu. The MECs present, the clergy, the church leadership, the creative sector present here, led by a number of its leadership. The torch bearers of the theatre production of the creative sector in the country that are present here. I think Ubaba Utwala, Uchiko, my brother and friend, spoke well about their role. On behalf of the Department of Arts and Culture, let me take the opportunity to extend my heartfelt condolences to the Ngema family. Sitting tutuzekani akwehlangano lehle. In New Madlokovo, we're not only bearing an artist, but we're bearing a veteran of the liberation struggle. And we're acknowledging your role in arts. I would like first and foremost to appreciate the role and the contribution played by Playhouse and the Ngema family for the organization of the very vibrant musical celebration this past Wednesday, and the quality of production. It was truly befitting of Eqhawe, the freedom fighter and anti-apartheid activist. It was him, Mbongeni Ngema, who took South African theatre to the global stage to amplify the conditions of the black majority, the conditions of brutality, and the conditions of injustice. The question we ask today, what is the role of theatre in South Africa today in nation building and social cohesion? Therefore, the question we must ask, which is one thing I would like to say today, what needs to be done in celebrating his legacy? What needs to be done? There is a need to establish a system or a program of recognition and acknowledgement as part of our vision. I will once again repeat what I always say. We need to give them flowers whilst they can still smell them. If we do so, we'll have less of posthumous recognition. We must name rivers. We must name streets. We must build academies. We must name oceans and mountains and buildings after their names in recognition of their contribution, whilst they can see and walk past those monuments. When I last met him, when we were honoring Madala at this historic playhouse, I reminded him that indeed we shall come back, because it is our view as the department that we must give them flowers whilst they can still smell them. But it is not our decision to take him. It is a cost decision. Recently, I had the privilege and the opportunity to visit both Paris and Russia, where I discovered that they've been able to increase their budget for arts and culture because of its contribution not only to their GDP,
but as a result of, of this contribution to nation building and social cohesion. And I would like all spheres of government, both province led by the Premier and the Mayor who was here, to hear this part loud and clear. Usually, I had an opportunity to meet with the Minister of Arts and Culture in Paris to ask why arts and culture is so important, not only in the GDP of France. He says to me, is the biggest contributor to our GDP. The problem we have currently, which we are quantifying, as South Africa, we have not been able to quantify the economic contribution of the creative sector to the GDP. And as such, our budgeting is much less because we have less appreciation of its contribution. The South African Cultural Observatory finds that South Africa's creative economy contributes significantly to South Africa's GDP in job creation and transformation agenda. Yet, there's always room to do more. South Africa's creative economy contributes over 90 billion rand to South Africa's GDP. In terms of transformation, the South African Cultural Observatory found that around 87% of creative and cultural industry occupations were held by Black South Africans, with women occupying around 43% in jobs in the sector. South Africa's share of the contribution of arts and culture to the GDP is comparable to that of countries in BRICS and countries such as United States and UK. Arts and culture in these countries contributes between 3 to 5% of the GDP. Yet somehow, it seems these countries are able to leverage more on arts and culture and have it play an important role in the economic development of those countries. For an example, arts and culture in the United States contribute about $1 trillion to the country's GDP, with supporting 4.9 million jobs. Arts and culture can create jobs, opportunities for investment, and drive collaboration with other sectors such as tourism, as well as small development. I'm therefore calling upon the industry principals to engage the department to discuss the role of government should play in and establish a fund that will ensure sustainability of the creative sector. If such a fund, for example, was in place during the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry would have been cushioned against the harsh COVID-19 conditions. In my conversations with Dr. John Kani, Sisile Tambulu, and Tata Caiphas Menya, they tell me when they perform overseas, they are vetted by the Union and Home Affairs, and they pay levies that go to the Union for funding of the industry. As a country and as an industry, we need to think about a future that will enable us to create a strong gatekeeping policy to manage access by international artists that visit our shores to work. If this could be achieved and work, we would have celebrated and kept alive Dr. Ngema's legacy. I've heard the proposals by Chico Twala and others. In the days following his passing, we've been discussing with Playhouse as a department, what best do you honor this global icon? A mere answer is that there cannot be enough recognition to honor people who have made such immense contribution. But one recognition is important. Some of the proposals is to rename Playhouse, is to rename the Opera Theatre, where most of his production were done, is to have a statue of him outside of Playhouse. There's a number of options. To you, Madlokovu, You inspired many young people who were here in the country. You gave them hope during the dark days that freedom is coming tomorrow. You were a prophet because tomorrow did not mean the following day. But however, freedom did come. At a time of difficulties in our country, the times of despondency, you gave hope to families, to many of us, certainly when I was young, that we should love each other. Hence the song, Stimela Samsasezola, Tambulam Lekendaki, Hamagathi Madlokov, Hamagathi Mfwetu, Uqatso Ulfezile. We will see how best do we use your legacy to educate the rest of younger generation. One of the major contributions we must make to honor people like him, people like Peter Makubane, is to overhaul our history, Mama Nkosazana. Our history, if it does not include the role of art, the role of artists, the role of creative sector in the liberation struggle, is incomplete. Because some of them, through their cameras, through their voices, through the theater, through the performing arts, they exposed the brutality of apartheid. It is that history that must be taught in our schools. Siyabonga, thank you very much. Ulale kahle mfethu.
On a lighter note, siyabonga Minister, siyabonga kakhulu. On a lighter note, ngelinye ilanga siso Lundi. Umntwana akaphinda angene ubona uNgema uyaqhamuka uyamuka ukuthi wangilimaza wena. Anyway, to try and understand uNgema umlimaziphi umntwana akaphinda angene. Uthi, you know, Americans used to listen to me, but in the late 80s, I would go there, they would listen to me and they would ask, what about Asina Mali? So these plays were really playing a big role, not only like Kaya, but also internationally. Ungema usebenzile ne-Lady Smith Black Mambazo, kakhulu, and bazongena la stage manje, bese kungena uBlack Moses. Many people know ukuthi album kaNgema yokuqala ethi Stimela Sasezola wayenza ne-Soul Brothers. Bazongena nabo bazoperforma la stage no Ringo Mahingozi. Let us enjoy. Thank you.
Senhor,
Siyabonga ama-committed amakhe, siyabonga. Siyabonga, siyabonga, siyabonga. Siyabonga kakhulu. Siyabonga kakhulu. Akekho ofana nawe, kunjalo. Akekho ofana nawe Madlokovu. Kunjalo, siyabonga ama-committed artists amakhe. Siyabonga kakhulu ma-committed artist amakhe. Ngizoba ne-request encane nje ma-artist ami amakhe. Siyavuma ukuthi nize lapha ngaphambili eduze kwakhe uMadlokovu. Kodwa siyacela ukuthi sihloniphe ngoba manje uma sisondela la sivele sidudule umndeni sikhekhele kuwona. Siyacela nje. Akekho onqabayile, akekho onivimbayo. Namhlanje sizophelezela uMajikelezi Nqeni, uMathanga Etshitshi, uMadlokovu waseNgweni, uNtusi Yenkomo. We want to acknowledge the presence of Bhakabhaka, ngimbiza Bhakabhaka mina. Makhumalo Leleti, we acknowledge your presence, Swami. Bhakabhaka. Makhumalo. Siyabonga. We also want to acknowledge the presence of Somizi Mhlongo. We want to acknowledge the presence of Black Moses. You have been Shiluguti, i-album yokuqala kaNgema wayenza ne-Soul Brothers, isitimela saseZola. Unfortunately, because umshini wakhe awukho. Niyamazi uBlack Moses udlala okunye ngala, udlala okunye ngala, udlala okunye ngala. Manje ngoba akukho la stage, uthe simxolisele ubefisa kakhulu ukuzophelezela umngani wakhe ukuthi one more time ayibambe insimbi zesitimela saseZola. Sifisa also ukubonga kakhulu nakubantu abaloke bebhala. Siyakubona ke lokho kubhala ku social media lokho kunye sinandaba nakho. Kodwa sifuna ukubonga laba ababhala okuhle ngoba kuningi. Siyawabona ama-articles abhalwa, for instance, uDr. Vushongwe, ahlonipha kakhulu uMadlokovu. Siyabonga ababhalayo, siyazifunda izinto enizibhalayo. Kuyasijabulisa kakhulu lokho. Ngilinda uRingo njalo njengoba ningibona. Ngoba sifuna ukuqhubeka nohlelo, sesilinde nje uRingo. Angifuni azathi ngoba. Angishoko nje athi ngobani. Sicela bathi bacela uRingo azogodolela ngase stage. Ringo Madlingozi, are you here? Okay. This opportunity is going once. It's going twice. It's going 2.5. Ringo Madlingozi. Okay. No, if I get Ringo, because simizile ekuqaleni sabuya sazotshela ukuthi usemeduze kwestage ucela ukubizwa. Sesiyambiza manje akasaqhamuki futhi. Okay, in the meantime, ngicela sishayele uRasta izandla sibheke lapha yananku umsebenzi wakhe. uRasta. Angikho sure ngalesokuqala kodwa ke uRasta siyamazi. uRasta siyamazi sonke. Ngicela simshayele izandla uRasta. Thank you very much. Akekho uRingo. On that note, bakwethu ngiyacela ke ukuthi ke bese sibamba isizotha sesingena ke engxenyeni ebaluleke kakhulu yalolu hlelo njengoba kuuhlelo olwenziwa uhulumeni. Lolu hlelo siliphathelwe undunankulu wethu waKwaZulu Natal esengimcela eze ngaphambili azosithulela inkulumo yosuku. Sicela bonke abantu basukume bame ngeenyawo. Usazojiva kancane.
Siyabonga kakhulu kubaphathi bohlelo MEC Hlomuka ophinde asiphathele okwesikhashana lomnyango kwi-province waka Arts, Sports and Culture. Sibingelele nomphathi wohlelo uBudmandla. Sifisa ukubingelela ngenkulu inhlonipho kuma ministers akhona, Minister in the presidency, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister of Police, Minister Ndosi, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister Zizi Kodwa, Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Dlomo. We also acknowledge members of the Executive Council of KwaZulu-Natal, MEC of Health, MEC Nomagugu Smelane, Opinde Abangu, Deputy Chairperson of the African National Congress, the MEC of Education, MEC Fraser, MEC of Agriculture, MEC Zuma, MEC Human Settlement and Public Works, MEC Nkosi, and MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture in Gauteng, Ms. Matsupe. Bizwa kanjalo ke MEC. Former ministers that are present, former Minister Jeff Radebe, no Mama Mrs. Radebe, Opinde Abe Excellency, former Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Dr. Mkhize, a former Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, who's also an ambassador, Mr. Ndebele, Siyafisa ukubingelela all ambassadors and high commissioners and leaders of missions that are present, eThekwini Mayor Councillor Kaunda, members of the Executive Council of the National Assembly, members of the Provincial Legislature, all mayors that are present and councillors, Director Generals that are present, led by the Director General, Dr. Mkhize, Deputy Provincial Commissioner, heads of departments, umndeni ngokukhethekile umndeni wakaGumede nomndeni wakangema siyabingelela ngenkulu inhlonipho izihlobo zonke ezikhona zakwangema nezakwagumede nabangani, the international guests that are present, the leaders of political parties that are present, business leaders, creative arts industry present, sizwile ukuthi bakhona obaba Ashel Mhlophe, abo Hostix Mabuse, abo Leleti, abo Mam Yvonne, abo Butimzwakhe Mbuli, bo Chiko Twala, Lady Smith Black Mambazo, baningi kakhulu angeke sikwazi ukubabala bonke kodwa siyafisa ukubingelela kubona bonke abaholi bakalizwi nawo bonke nje umphakathi okhona including members of the media. Nizongixolela ke ngoba I was taught in the diplomatic school lapho engangi-appointwe khona umama unkosazana Dlamini Zuma as an ambassador ukuthi ayikho into ekuthiwa protocol observed. We observe a protocol. Ayikho nje asiyazi ukuthi iyavelaphi. Ngiyafisa ukubingelela ngentambama yanamhlanje. Sihlangene lapha namhlanje with our hearts that are heavy, with the burden of grief and the sorrow as we bid farewell to the son of the soil, one of our global icons in the performing arts industry, a towering maestro who carried our flag aloft on the world stage. For as long as humanity has existed, one of the mysteries that philosophers, scientists, and poets, sages and prophets have been grappling with, including bonke abafundisi, is the enigma of the cycle of life and death. As such, as we walk this earth, one of the morbid certainties that haunt us every day of our lives is when is our appointment with our Maker. And this is why we are here, because uMadlokovu bathe omkhulu mabamemeza wasabela. Kuthe uma ngabe uNkulunkulu embiza washo wathi eyakhe incwadi seyiqediwe. It is because of this reason that when a person of Dr. Ngema dies, superlatives such as the giant, a trailblazer, a luminary, a towering icon, a game changer, a larger-than-life personality, everybody is thrown around to describe him. However, it is fitting that the passing away of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, we have lost a towering giant. For greatness was his middle name. We have seen and we've heard everybody who came here speaking of discipline, speaking of greatness, speaking of excellence. Dr. Ngema was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His journey is a typical rags to riches tale, yet he departs this world completely immortalized. No number of adjectives can adequately describe Dr. Ngema's genius. Program directors, The past week have been like a horrible nightmare from which all of us had hoped we would be woken up and somebody would say, no, agloni qiniso. None amongst us wanted to believe the various media platforms, even the calls that we received when they repeatedly informed us of the sad news of Madlogovu's untimely death in a car accident. And indeed, our lives have been shattered. The outpouring messages of condolences and support from all over the world confirmed that Madlogovu, as he was affectionately known, did not only belong to his family and South Africans, but he belonged to all humanity and the globe. This is the reaffirmation of ancient wisdom as captured in the Chinua Achebe's Art Hills of Savannah, that a cock that crows in the morning belongs to one household, but its voice is the property of all of the neighbors or of all the neighborhood. Sonke sisuke sazi ukuthi maselikhala ke lelo qhude sekuyisikhathi sokuthi sesizovuka, kodwa kube kuyiqhude elibelonga to one family. So was the life of Madlogovu. That he died after delivering a moving eulogy at the funeral of his close friend and business associate, with whom he had worked with for 30 years, testified the cruel nature of this fate. As if he had a premonition that death was stalking him along the way on his way back to Durban. In his eulogy, Madlogovu spoke of how Mam Sheila's death has taken a part of him or a part of her. And that is what Madlogovu said, umangabe ebeka amazwi eduduza umndeni. A few hours later, after he had uttered those present words, he perished in the horrible accident, leaving our universe spirit of a star that shone the brightest. Today we gather here. We have the divested of a global impresario and thespian who stood shoulders above others as a composer, a musician, a playwright, a theater producer, a choreographer, a lyricist, a role into one, as we have heard many describing him. That he could wear all these hats with effortless ease, and as we heard abanye bekhulumala, affirming Madlogovu's genius and the architecture, his longtime musical director and band leader, Ubabu Eddie Matibe, speaking at his memorial service at the Playhouse on Wednesday, acclaimed, and he said, such geniuses like Madlogovu come once in a particular lifetime. And ilokho sikubonayo namhlanje, just like Ray Charles, the greatest musical genius of all, Madlogovu never worked in just one style, but he blended and beautified all that he had touched in his life. He was at home in Tloati. He was at home in New York, in the Stockholm, in Cote d'Ivoire, and in California. His virtuosity was felt by the likes and the record producer, the songwriters, and the arranger Quincy Jones, who became his friend and actor, comedian and author Whoopi Goldberg as well, to name the two. He was one with the rural communities. Umangabe semakhaya, he was there effortlessly. Ekhuluma nabo bonke abantu, ahlale phansi kwesihlahla, akwazi ukukhuluma ulimi labantu. Uma ngabe kufanele akhulume with the other classes, he was at home and he was able to converse, such as the level of refinement and the charisma and sophistication that we've learned and we've seen in Madlogovu. But equally, he was at home Kuma Nazareth Baptist Church and within the Zionist churches. And siyabonga umfundisi wethu wase Nazareth ukuthi akhumbuze indlu yakithi obaba bethu ukuthi kufanele siyeke ngempela lelichilo lokuthi kusekhona abantu besifazane abahlukumezwayo. uMadlokovu was also a man about town and could charm a fish out of water, as captured in his timeless classic Stimela Sasezola. Such was his level of adaptability. But to understand Madlokovu's repertoire as a musician, a theater producer, and a composer, one has to delve deep into the history. That he was born in Verulam in 1955, at the height of apartheid repression, when inhumane legislation such as Group Areas Act had been passed. 5 years before he was born, shows how since his birth, his life was interwoven with the tapestry of the struggle and the suffrage of the African people. And I agree with my comrade and my leader, Usis Nomagugu, Uguti, you can never talk about impilo yakaMadlokovu without talking about inhlangano yakhe abeyithanda, but also the liberation struggle of this country. A time of great upheaval in our liberation history. This was when the communities suffered untold humiliation, when they were forcefully removed from their land of birth, just because they were Africans. So we need not to understand the writings about our history, but we must understand it, how uMadlokovu had to leave the life of a black person in this country at the time. So was that able to be transported to the arts and the work that he was able to command. Needless to say that Dr. Mbongeni Ngema's family was removed from Verulam because they were classified as blacks, and that township was then classified as an Indian community only, setting off a chain of events in the life which would find expression in artistic production of Ubaba Mbongeni Ngema. As a result of this grand plan of separate development, more than 6 decades later, long after the architects of apartheid have died, we are still grappling with the impact made by this on our society. And I do wish to also emphasize the point that was emphasized by my comrades here, that it is such ironic that sometimes in this country, some people want us to forget about the past. Some people don't want us to remember where we come from, because if we do not remember where we come from, we would not know where we're supposed to be going to. So Madlokovu's life was inspired by stories of heroism that were told in the rolling hills Zasentlwathi, where his forefathers came from. This is also a powerful reminder of what shaped the political consciousness and the outlook of uMadlokovu. Dr. Ngema was also inspired by the heroic exploits of one of his more illustrious forebears, who fought bravely in the epic of Isandlwana battle. His great-grandfather, uSgcwelegcwele Ngema, of the indomitable Ingoba Makhosi regiment of King Qetshwayo, was among those who, in the face of death, shouted Esandlwana, "Uyadela wena osulapho." And bengitshela uMC wami la uHlomuka ukuthi mhlambe kuzobaleka ukuthi in the memory of uMadlokovu we relive as we go to Esandlwana ngomhla ka-27, sikwazi ukuthi si-celebrate uMadlokovu there, but also sikhumbuze nokuthi ubaba wakhe umkhulu wakhe uSgcwelegcwele Ngema nabanye bafela khona laphayana ibutho la Sengoba Makhosi elaga King Echwayo. These warriors did not cower the shadow of death, but they relished the opportunity to fight, to defend our land. And we heard Obab Chiko Twala here talking about how fearless Obab Mbongeni Ngema was. And as if he always preached that no retreat, no surrender. That was too mild a word for Ubaba Ngema. When we look at the work that was being done, but also looking at the warriors, the legends, the like of which the world has never seen before, thus we see in the bravery of Madlogovo that is among the very few who have come closest to emulate the feat of Ngoba Makhosi. He took over the baton from the pathfinders of the struggle of liberation, but he used the arts as a weapon of choice in his arsenal in communicating and relaying the message and the pain and the suffering of our Black people and the communities. He demonstrates this and how complex and interplay our history is, and the people's lives and the experiences that our people have had to feel. But what made Madlogovo a veritable gem is that he was a self-taught, and he was a product and the hallowed halls of not formal education of our hallowed walls. But he was self-educating himself and sharpening his tools at all times. As history tells us that Dr. Ngema spent 3 months in a garage at a house in the doyen of the African theater, Obaba Gibson Kenter. If he had given up at that time, maybe he would not have scaled the heights of the global excellence and the arts and the industry. And umangabe ngempela akazange ahlale egarage la kaBaba Gibson Kenter akwazi ukuthi asharpenishe ama-tools wakhe nomsebenzi wakhe, mhlawumbe ngabe akakazwanga ukuthi umsebenzi wakhe uzukhuphuke ubonakale kanje. Having been a cast into the Kenter's play Imama and the Lord, he did not look back at the time. Over years, he would be involved in many plays that he would wrote and co-wrote, such as Asinamali, Bowoza Albert, Bosarafina, Magic at 4 a.m., and many others. The common thread of all these plays and the production is that he told stories of people gallantly resisting the unjust system and struggling to gain freedom in what became known as the protest theater. Of all his plays, Abosarafina would become a jewel in the glittering crown of his repertoire after he wowed audiences all over the world. And he created a powerful platform of telling our South African story of resilience against apartheid on the global stage. The tour de force would go to enjoy several of uninterrupted runs on the Broadway in the United States of America as the achievement that was unprecedented at that time. As a result of his outstanding contribution, we saw Madlogovo at the Globe with his body of arts. He won numerous awards and nominations, including the Tony Awards for Asinamali and Sarafina, and was inducted in the New York Wall of Fame, Grammy Award nomination, and in 2016, on the 9th of May, that was declared, and Ubabu Duman Ndlovu and Mbongeni Ngema there at the Harlem. And we've heard even during the memorial service how the 9th of May is celebrated in Harlem as the day of Ubabu Ngema. And alongside the name of Ubaba Ngema, siyabona nala South Africa, nala eThekwini, igama lakaBaba Ngema libhaliwe laphaya emnyango wase City Hall khona la eThekwini alongside igama labaholi abafana nabo Nelson Mandela abo Oliver Tambo, abo Miriam Makeba, nabanye abaningi. There are many other honors for Madlogovu, including his transformation from an abuser of women to speaking against gender-based violence, which was recognized in many other platforms, including the Gauteng Social Development, that also through their 365 Men's Award, recognized the work that was being done by Madlogovu on the gender-based violence. I do want to say to all of us here, fellow mourners, that artists are the embodiment and the aspirations of our people. Then Dr. Ngema was a prophet because he reaffirmed our collective hope through music that freedom was indeed coming tomorrow. Madlogovu was also a workaholic and had exceptional work ethic. Those who worked with him would tell you that he was a hard to please, a disciplinarian who led by example, by being efficient and expecting nothing less from those in the slog with him. It was not uncommon to find him bereaving away until the wee hours of the morning, marking the magic in the process. As we honor the memory of our icon, Ubaba Ngema, we remember his humanity, his generosity, the spirit of his willingness to assist others without expecting anything back. We've seen and we've heard many other artists that he was uplifting. But more than anything, while his passing has left us broken, we need to thank the Almighty for his life. We need to celebrate for what Mbongeni was to us as humanity. We pay homage in his life well lived. We need to ensure that we pick up the spear and continue where he left off. And I also want to add my voice to the renaming minister of the Playhouse, to Mbongeni Ngema. As government, we wish to commit ourselves that we will work tirelessly to ensure that we preserve his memory, and let us work in concert to ensure that we fulfill what he has in one of the interviews here. My work will outlive me. When he said that, he said 100 years from now, people will still be performing Usarafina. So, Program Director, at this juncture, let me also emphatically underscore the fact that as the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we had taken a view a long time, as Ubudwamu Nozulu was saying here, to partner with the creative sector, artists, musicians, and actors. The partnership that assisted government to communicate and mobilize public awareness on various programs like the road safety, HIV and AIDS health programs, and many others. We've heard how Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma was a subject of heavy criticism when she recognized the influential role and very artistic by honoring that today. We also must understand and remember that as province of KwaZulu-Natal, we were also able with Ambassador Ndebele, together with the late Ubabu Kaba Mkhize, the general manager of the then SABC in KwaZulu-Natal, they put together what was called Isixaxa Mbiji, featuring Ubabu Hasheli Mhlope, Abopuze Khemisi, Abomfazi Omnyama, to drive the message on the road safety. He also worked with the likes of Abo Mamura Kamalope, Abo Babu Jabu Kanyile, Abo Vuyumkwena, and many others in those programs that were commissioned by the province of KwaZulu-Natal. But subsequently to that, the former premier also, Ubaba Udokotela Uzweli Mkhize, and Abo MEC Omabuya Kulu, and many others worked with Madlogovu in creating a KwaZulu-Natal music house, which was created to stop the force of exodus of our KZN artists to Gauteng. and in particular because of the lack of opportunities and the facilities in our province. And I remember how Dr. Ngema conceptualized the music house, and the province of KwaZulu-Natal agreed and funded the program that was visioned by Ubabu Ngema of incubating musicians, making sure that the records and the documentation of the work of our musician was alive in the KZN Music House, as opposed to our artists going to Gauteng. As government, we also want to indicate that we are not oblivious to the plight of our artists, our musicians, our actors, producers, and many other creative practitioners. Siyathanda ukuvuselela ukuthi ngaso sonke isikhathi kubalekile nokuqwashisa umphakathi wethu ukuthi uma kukhona lama productions umphakathi wethu mawuhambe uyosekela ama artists by filling those holes so that ama artists wethu nomsebenzi wawo can continue to inspire even many generations to come. We know today that we are honoring uMadlokovu, who committed himself, but also committing ourselves to ensuring that we will work even closer with artists in our province, because Madlokovu's cry was for the betterment of the artists that have not fallen in the deaf ears in us in this leadership. We want to say that we are going to be ensuring that indeed the support that is needed to ensure that the plight of our artists is not the one that we celebrate only when they are no more. I also wish to quote from the poem from one of the foremost African scholars, Benedict Wallet Vilakazi, in the title Mhla Ngificwa Ukufa. Kodwa ke ngenxa yesikhathi ngeke ngiyicule, ngangiyicule esikoleni ngezikhathi zami. Ithi mhla ngificwa ngokufa, ngimbeleni phansi kotshani, duze nesihlahla somyezane, lapho amagatsha eyongembesa, ngamaqabunga agcwele uhlaza, ngozwa nami lapho ngilele, phansi utshani bungaphezulu buhleba. Ebese ithi lala sithandwa, lala uphumule. Amazwi esiwashoyo namhlanje, amazwi lawa esiwashoyo namhlanje kwisithanda sethu uMadlokovu Ntusi yenkomo ukuthi lala sithandwa, lala uphumule, owakho umsebenzi ufezile. Okwethu ukuthi sithathe umkhonto owile, njengoba sihlale sisho ngesizulu sethu sithi ihawu liwile. Okwethu ukuthi sithathe lo mkhonto nalelo hawu, qhubekele phambili emsebenzini uMadlokovu awushiye ungaphelanga, ngoba iningizimu Afrika ayikakakhululeki uma ngabe kusekhona abantu abangenazo izindlu, kusekhona abantu abangeyona ingxenye yomnotho wezwe lethu. Yingakho kubalekile ukuthi siqhubeke nomsebenzi, singakhohlwa ukuthi baningi abafuna ukuyibuyisela emuva lenqola yenkululeko, baningi abasafuna ukuthi kube nezibhedlela zabo bodwa, kube nezikole zabo bodwa, baningi abangakufuni lokhu kubumbana ubaba uChikhothwala bekakhuluma ngabo, ukuthi njengabantu abantsundu balapha eningizimu Afrika kubaleke kudlula kwenza ukuthi sibumbane, sithandane uma ngabe sizokwenza iningizimu Afrika enenqubekela phambili futhi ethuthukayo. Namhlanje sithi lala sithandwa, lala uphumule. Siyabonga Madlokovu. Siyabonga, ngicela ukubiza Chaplain, while we maybe wait with the song Sihlala Phansi, can we invite the chaplain to come and render a short service before we can then conclude with other formalities of today's work?
It is well with my soul, it is well, it is well, let it with. Thank you so much, Honorable Premier, for this opportunity that you have just afforded to me. Allow me to read from the book of Revelations, chapter 21, and I will read from verse 1. Izwi lenkosi tholakala encwadini yesambulo isahluko sika 21, and I will read from verse 1. It reads as follows: A new heaven and a new earth. Verse 1. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth has passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Look, God's dwelling place is now amongst the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them, and their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. He who seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. He said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. To those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. Amen. Allow me, kafishane, stick only on verse 6. It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Sekwenzekile. Ngingu Alpha no Omega, isiqalo nesiphetho. Komileyo ngiyakumphuzisa ngesihle emthonjeni wamanzi okuphila. Ukuba isikhathi besikhona bengizothi uNkulunkulu yena oyisiqalo sezinto zonke. Zonke izinto zivele kuyena. Konke sikubonayo kuvele kuyena. Kodwa ke ngifisa nje namhlanje sifocuse lokugcina ukuthi he is also the Omega, uyisiphetho sezinto zonke. Zaqala kuyena futhi zophetha kuyena. Impilo zethu zonke njengoba sila ziqale kuyena ziyophetha kuyena. Khathaleke noma ngabe ubani, kodwa egcineni uyophetha esandleni sikaNkulunkulu. Ingakho kubalekile ukuthi ungayenzi mistake yokuhamba ibanga elide uNkulunkulu ekude nawe. Mbize eseseduzane ukuze ukuthi makufika isikhathi sokuphetha impilo yakho iphethe kahle usezandleni zikaJesu. Uthi ke lo mbhali ngisiqalo nesiphetho. Kokomile ngiyakumphuzisa. Hawu makhondomile la nanka amanzi esihle. Ophuza kulamanzi akasoze oma. Ngamkhumbula uJesu ngeyilanga ehlangana nowesifazane eSamaria athi kuyena ukuba bewazi bewuzocela kimi ngikuphuzisa amanzi ongeke uphinde wome wona, ngoba inkinga yakho unokoma wena, uyaphuza kodwa kuphela ukoma. Khona abantu abaphuzayo kodwa kuphela ukoma ngoba badinga uNkulunkulu empilweni zabo. Usunazo zonke ezinye izinto kodwa ushoda ngoNkulunkulu empilweni yakho. Uma ungathatha yena abe u-alpha abe no-omega empilweni yakho into zakho zingalunga. Sengiphetha ekugcineni ukhona omega noma ungambalekela, but at the end you shall face him ngoba uyena eqaleni futhi uyena ekugcineni. I am the alpha and the omega. uNkulunkulu anibusise mndeni kaMadlokovu, asibusise sonke egameni lika Jesu. Amen. Masithandaze. Baba wethu oyingcwele nongiyise Nkosi yethu Kristu Jesu, siyakubonga Baba. Emini nje sicela ukumemezela ukuthi impela usewuNkulunkulu wethu. Noma kunje, noma isimo sinje asikujiki kodwa wena ukuthi nguJehova igama lakho, uyindoda emanathi empini zonke. Siyabonga Baba nalenkonzo kaBaba Madlokovu. Siyabonga Baba impilo yakhe. Siyabonga ukuthi uma siphuma la uyasikhumbuza ukuthi uyisiqalo wena nesiphetho. You are the alpha and the omega of our lives. Sizeke Nkosi uma siqhubeka siphila sikhumbule ukuthi kodwa wena uyisiqalo futhi uyisigcino. Singahlakaniphi sisicabanga ukuthi sihlakaniphe ngaphezulu kwakho ngoba ekugcineni kogcina wena. Uma sekuphele konke okunye wena oyisiphetho. Thatha udumo ke Nkosi sibusise, ududuze umndeni kaMadlokovu, ududuze isizwe sonke egameni lika Jesu Kristu, yena yedwa inkosi ophila manje kuze phakade naphakade. Amen. Thank you so much. May I then invite the marshalling officer, Captain Tombela, to come lie podium.
Maybe while we are still waiting for the officer, to all of you to respect ubaba uMadlokovu. Ukuthi send off yakhe ibe indlexanisha lezandla nje nonke. Umsebenzi enwenzile ukuthi sekwazi ukumanage isikhathi senza yonke into ngokukhulu kakhulu. May God bless you and bless you and bless you more. I then want to hand over to my co-chair to after my announcement will then officer will take over.
Angibonge kakhulu. Ngiceliwe umndeni ndunankulu ukuthi ngibonge once again kuhulumeni, ngisho ukuthi siyabonga, siyanconcoza. Yebo siyabonga ubuholi bukahulumeni, kodwa futhi sibonga kakhulu ama officials at different levels ekade esithwele all the way. Siyazi ukuthi mase ku kanje kusuke sesibhekene nabaholi kakhulu kanti kunama officials ekuyiwona kade gijima. Ngiceliwe umndeni ukuthi ngibonge the following people ekuyibone bebe yikomiti ebelihlela lo msebenzi obungelula neze. Namanje siyaphefumula nje sesifike la. Bekungeve kunzima. Ngibiye ngacelwa ke umndeni ukuthi ngiyichair le organizing committee. Ngiyacela ukuthi nami ngibonge kakhulu ukubona, ngiyathemba ukuthi umndeni wanelisekile ukuthi benze umsebenzi omuhle. Umama Gugu Ngcobo, uVusi Mvelase, Henry Paul, ubaba Edmund Hadebe, siyabonga kakhulu. Umuntu omdala uAfrika Ngema, uNtombenhle Ngema, uNhlanhla Ngema, Mrs. Tsietsi Ngema, Sabelo Ngema, Thandeka Mazulu Ngema, indodakazi kaMadlokovu Mangema Ngema, Ndlovukazi uMapule, uNorman Qobolo, Domsani Ngema, Mandla Ngema, ne guidance enkulu ebesiloke siyitholile all the way kuMagumede. Siyabonga ube umholi Magumede yonke lendlela. Without your guidance ngabe akunjena, ngabe asifikanga la sikhona. We hope you are satisfied ngomsebenzi owenziwe. Kuzosukwa lapha kuyiwe emathuneni ase Red Hill. Abafisayo ukuya bavumelekile ukuphelezela umndeni kuyofikwa emathuneni ase Red Hill. Loku kwakuthiwa isigaba 8 ngokwa Dok noNyembezi. Ukumaya kunokumaya okuhleliwe okuzokwenzeka khona lapha eICC. Laba bangezukuphumelela ukuya nathi emalibeni bayacelwa ukuthi baphuza amanzi lawahleliwe azobe ekhona la. Ngiyacela ke abaqokiwe bathunga kunomsebenzi obaluleke kabi uNdosi uzosivumela ukuthi senze lama roadblock amancane angekho emthethweni. Sizovala zonke intuba zokuphuma, hayi ngoba siyivala. Sifuna nje ukwenza sure ukuthi nonke senixhawulile maniphuma siniphelezele kahle. Sideployile ke abaphethe amabhakede oqoqa umnikelo. Bazokwenza sure ukuthi bayanixhawula nonke maniphuma, nani ke bese niyabaxhawula futhi ukuze siqinise umndeni idolo. Siyabonga kakhulu, ngiphinde ngibonge naku program director engibamisene naye. Siyabonga kakhulu Ndunankulu ukusithemba ngalo msebenzi. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga program directors. Sicela ukubingelela uNdunankulu waKwaZulu Natal noma Sadube. Sicela ukubingelela ominister bakhona Ndosi. Sicela ukubingelela bonke o-deputy o-MECs. Sicela ukubingelela zonke icukuthwane ngeyigaba zazo neyihambeli zonke ngeyigaba zazo. Ngicela ngokukhethekile ukubingelela umndeni wakaNgema. Allow me to say all protocol observed. Captain Ntombela nazisa ukuthi procession yethu izofoma kanjani futhi izohamba kanjani. Ngaphandle kwalokho bengithi nje ngicela ukubeka izicelo ezimbalwa. Esokuqala ngicela ukuthi masisuka la nomndeni nomzimba sithi gozololo kancane bese sivimela ukuthi umndeni no general no Ndunankulu namsana nabo bethi nje ukuthi ixuga lapha kancane phambili. Bothi mase behambile ke bese siyajoin emva kwabo ukuze sibanike ispace namaphoyisa sokumasha. Bese kuthi phandle ngicela nje ukuthi sivulele ispace imoto zamaphoyisa zikwazi ukuhamba phambili mhlawumbe nezasecebelo lethu ngemuva to allow space again ukuze sikwazi ukuhamba. Bese kuthi emathuneni indawo ingumncini. Angiboni sonke ukuthi masingapaka imoto emgwaqeni singene sonke songena fast. Ngiyacela futhi ukuthi sidedele amaphoyisa nabamba phambili nomzimba ukuze sikwazi ukusheshe sifike ukuze bese siyajoyina ngemuva sonke bese siyalandelana. Umndeni ungasali masiqhubeka uzolandela ngendlela ezingene ngayo. Ndunankulu wakithi kaZulu Natal sizohamba kanje. I-procession yethu will be formed up as follows. It's going to be the leading detachment. Behind the leading detachment is going to be the police brass band. Behind the police brass band is going to be the chaplain. Behind the chaplain is going to be the hearse. On the side of the hearse is going to be the pallbearers. Behind the hearse is going to be the bearers. Behind the bearers is going to be all the officers in order of their seniority. Behind the officers is going to be all the police mourners. And behind the police mourners is going to be the family with their cars. And behind the family is going to be all the civil mourners. Umphakathi wakithi ke sicela ubuso ungena ngemuva ke. Sizomasha ukusuka la esingene khona eminyango siyongena kulomgwaqo omncane ngale siyojoyina uDr. AB Xuma Street sehle sishone ezantsi. Masifika ekhoneni robotini sithatha left singene ku Stalwart Street. Sehle straight la sizoyivala khona sizoyivala mhlambe singakafika emarobotini bese siyayivala. Sizobe sesiqhubeka ke siye emathuneni ngeyimoto inhlaba lehidi yethu yeyimoto ihambe kanjalo. In that end, the following police honors will be observed. Bearers, Warrant Officer Matenjwa, Warrant Officer A.S. Mkhize, Warrant Officer W.L. Mkhize, Warrant Officer Mhlong, Warrant Officer Cwenza, Warrant Officer Tokwan, Warrant Officer Hlongwane, and Warrant Officer Makai. Those are the bearers. Paul bearers. Brigadier Zung, Brigadier Paramosam, Brigadier Twala, Brigadier Kabinde, Brigadier Matheson, Brigadier Kumet. Captain in charge of bearer party is going to be Captain Jing. Thank you, Program Directors.
Sicela sisukume sonke.
And that is the procession as it prepares to leave the Durban ICC. This is after the
And I'm very pleased to say that in June 2023, on the 9th of June, the cat sitter wrote a letter to Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, granting him his accreditation. And that was like a turning point in his quest for his own.
Light up the sky like a flame. People must remember my name. I wanted people to remember my name.
I don't think we'll ever forget.
Mbongeni Ngema, a South African playwright and composer, left a profound mark on both arts and society. Born in 1955, his works, particularly the iconic musical Sarafina, resonated deeply with South Africans during the struggle against apartheid. Through music and theatre, Ngema captured the yearning for freedom, the injustices faced, and the resilience of the people. His impact went beyond national borders. Ngema's plays, like Woza Albert and Asina Mali, with their powerful narratives and cultural richness, found acclaim on international stages. They not only entertained, but they also sparked dialogue and understanding, bridging cultural gaps and building empathy.
I'm so proud of your work. We have been talking about you while we were in prison, and we have been very moved by what you've done for the country. And I will never forget that. That was a special moment for me.
Ngema's dedication to using arts for social change left a lasting legacy. He saw theatre as a platform for education, empowerment, and transformation.
You know, with a bit of luck. Because luck just doesn't come to you. If you're just stationary and doing nothing, it will not come to you.
His works challenged the status quo, ignited conversations, and helped shape a more just and equitable society. While his physical presence is no more, the echo of his melodies and influence through his plays continues to inspire.
I know that the world had highly publicized 1976, but 1985 was as bad as 1976 throughout South Africa. I went home, I started jotting some notes down, but the main thing, somehow I felt like it can't continue like this, freedom has to come. But the main thing of what I was drafting was around freedom is coming tomorrow. I went to my piano and I started writing the song.
Ngema's story reminds us of the power of art to speak truth, connect communities, and drive positive change. He was a testament of the fact that even a single voice, imbued with passion and creativity, can leave an indelible mark on the world.
Carry on with my calling, and it's a calling I can't stop even to this day.
Rest in peace, Mbongeni Ngema. Your legacy will live on forever.
college. It's like there was a fire that came in his bones. He started working tirelessly. We would meet and work till the late evenings. And then eventually on the 15th of November, just 2 months ago, we had a strategy session with the team that he had put together.
And many of them are here today. And his plan was to open his academy in the first week of April 2024 in Durban. We found a building at the corner of Smith Street and Alwal Street here in Durban. He was very excited about his academy. He had spoken to so many people, including Professor Chris John, who is here with us today, and many other educators and experts in the education sector.
The other project that Ubaba Mbongeni Ngema was busy with at the time of his passing, as you know, uMadlokovu loved music, he loved drama, he loved the creative sector. But he also loved creatives, he loved musicians, he loved other actors and other people in the sector. So he wanted to open a Mbongeni Ngema museum of African greatness. And the whole idea behind this museum was to tell the history of himself as an artist, as a creative. Those who knew him personally will know that uMadlokovu was a very passionate historian. He knew his history. He knew African history, Zulu history, of course, South African history. And he was extremely passionate about sharing that history. So he wanted to open this museum called the Mbongeni Ngema Museum. We worked on the document, we worked on the proposals, we wrote letters. I remember we met with eThekwini Parks and Recreation, and in 2024, we were going to have a 6-month exhibition of his museum. And in that museum, he was also going to celebrate other artists and other creatives who were his contemporaries. He mentioned names like Miriam Makeba, he mentioned Brenda Fassie, he mentioned some who are still alive, Yvonne Chaka Chaka. He mentioned African creatives like Yusin Dor, Salif Keita. These are people that he wanted to share their stories in his museum. He also spoke about sporting personalities. You might not, but uMadlokovu was very good friends with some of the soccer players that have kind of shaped South African football. And he spoke about Ace Ntwelengu, he spoke about Teenage Ladla and many others. So as I sit down, I just want to say to the Ngema family that we are as committed as ever to continue with his legacy and with his projects, and everything that he planned and discussed, we are committed to continue with it. And kuMadlokovu ngithi siyabonga. Thank you for trusting us and for bringing us into your life and allowing us the incredible opportunity and privilege to work with you. Thank you.
Yo, that is good. Thank you very much. Let's clap hands for the performers as well, please. Before I invite the next speaker, Ubaba Chico Twala will speak on behalf of creative art industry. I want to acknowledge Umama Yvonne Chaka Chaka, who's also part of us here. La ehleli khona, si acknowledge Sticks Mabus, siyafisa ukuthi naye sim acknowledge because asuka kude. Makuthiwa umzawala usuka kude kusuke kushiwo into eshiwa kanje basayibambile futhi. Mama basayibambile. Sibambe nabo. Ubaba uChico Twala ozokhuluma as already indicated, bese kuba yileli feedback mambazo namanye ama-artist akhona ezofisa ukuthi we invite to Mr. Chico Twala eze ngaphambili ezokhuluma on behalf of creative art industry. Simshayile izandla beza ngaphambili. Ngicela ukuthi uDJ uselector ngekhathi sibiza abantu abezidlalela ingoma zababa Ngema kuzoba mnandi because we're here to celebrate the life of Baba Ngema. Thank you.
Sanibonani. Namhlanje ngiyazi ukuthi kunama ministers la, kunama premier mayors, but today I'm not going to call any of you with your respective titles. I want to refer to you as brothers and sisters in honor of Mbongeni Ngema, simply because during the days of apartheid, we were real brothers and sisters, not the enemies that we are today. Today, I want us to be ordinary citizens in honor of Mbongeni and reboot our conscience. Swelemva, reboot, and take it back to the days of apartheid, where we used to love one another as black people. Bestandana. What we are seeing today is disgraceful. To honor this man today, bencela ukuthi asibambaneni sibe munye. Mina, I worked with Mbongeni on 2 projects. The peace song, when there was political violence in South Africa. Mbongeni, myself, and Dumandlovu gathered and said, we need to stop this through a song. Mbongeni was is one of the person who was very passionate about black people, black lives. What was happening in KZN between the ANC, in fact, not KZN, all over South Africa, between the ANC and Inkatha Freedom Party, was really disturbing to Mbongeni. Hence, we actually gathered together and put together a project called the Peace Song, which did very well. All the proceeds were actually given to the proceeds went to the victims of violence at that time. Today, Mbongeni and I were once assigned by the then Minister of Transport, Jeff Radebe, to compose songs for the ANC election campaign. And while we're busy creating the songs, he said a lot of unpalatable things that were happening in our country. I don't want to dwell too much on what he said, but corruption was really hurting Mbongeni. To honor him, asiluseni corruption sibambaneni bafowethu. I have to be very short, but I would like to say this in closing. When I started my musical career in the early 80s, the likes of Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba, Letambule, Jonas Gwangwa were exiled because of singing apartheid songs. Protest songs were a criminal offense in this country, we all know that. But one person, in fact, not one, 2, Mbongeni Ngema and Zwakhe Mbuli, they said, Amabhunu, wabakhomba what? Mbongeni. He kept the fire burning. He sang protest songs throughout. He said, I'm not going to exile. So Nluisa Konala, and he did exactly that. He is the one who inspired the likes of Brenda Fassie, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, myself, to start singing protest songs. Without Mbongeni, definitely we wouldn't have created songs like Good Black Woman for Brenda Fassie, Too Late for Mama, I'm Missing Winnie Mandela by Yvonne Chaka Chaka. All the protest songs that we created was because of Mbongeni Ngema's bravery. I remember when Mama Winnie Mandela came into my house at Chico. Ufika la YWCA. He was doing what he likes with Amapun, and there's nothing that they did. He encouraged. That's why most of us, he really inspired us. This is the man who made some of us what we are today. In conclusion, ministers, mayors, nonke, and according to the honorable today, my brothers and sisters, ngiyanicela, i-playhouse, Durban, let's name it after our brother here. He deserves it. Thank you very much.
Oh, Siyabonga. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Siyabonga, Baba. Twala, you spoke very well. You spoke like a leader. You understand that we are here. Ngifisa to acknowledge ubaba uHashel Mhlophe okhona ngaphakathi. Bese I then acknowledge ubaba umzwakhe Mboli. I have taken note of what we have said, Mr. Twala, that these comrades, they said they were going to fight Ekaya, nearby exile. We are fighting inside, are not going anywhere. I would then, having given powers as a program director, I know that you might have a program. A person that I'm going to invite is not part of the program. I want all of us to rise and invite the former Prim of KwaZulu-Natal, Ubaba Undebele, ezokhuluma Baba Undebele.
All of us do by our presence here and by our celebrations in other parts of our country, and the world confer glory and hope to newborn liberty.
Thank you, program directors. Thank you to the Mbongeni family, Mbongeni Ngema family, who has given South Africa, who have given us so much. We thank you for having made it possible for him to do that. Colleagues, Sokubingelelwe, fellow ministers, Premier, and your government, thank you very much. As you see, I'm not in the program. It's called hijack. Let me just make a few remarks. In my earlier life, I was a librarian. And according to South African law, every item ever published is required by law to deposit at the State Library in Pretoria and at the National Library in Cape Town. Every item ever published in South Africa. If
bridging cultural gaps and
One more.